The Kray twins were more than just criminals. They were master manipulators who controlled London's East End through fear, intimidation, and a deep understanding of human psychology. Ronnie and Reggie Kray knew how to exploit the vulnerabilities of those around them, turning allies into pawns in their twisted game of life and death, while their enemies were made into examples. But there was one man who wouldn't let the twins' psychological grip on the city stop him from doing his job. Leonard Read, aka Nipper, was a detective who understood the importance of getting inside the minds of his adversaries. While others were dazzled by the Krays' public persona, Nipper saw through the façade to the dangerous psychopaths beneath. He knew that to bring them down, he had to outthink them, anticipate their moves, and exploit their weaknesses. In this video, we'll explore the methodical approach that Nipper Read took to dismantle the Kray empire, leading to their ultimate conviction and imprisonment. This is the story of how one man took on two of the most notorious criminals in British history and won. Leonard Read was born into a world that was as harsh as the wet, cold night he entered on March 31st, 1925. His father, Leonard Sr., laboured in a leather firm, while his mother, Ida Morris Read, tried to keep the household together. But tragedy struck early when she passed away, leaving young Leonard and his siblings adrift. At just 4 years old, Leonard faced a world of instability as he and his siblings were sent to live with various relatives. Leonard found himself in the home of his uncle, far from the comfort of his father's care. The return home came only after his father remarried, bringing a new maternal figure into the household. But by then, the seeds of resilience had already been sown in young Leonard. His upbringing was far from luxurious. He knew the sting of poverty. But what he lacked in material wealth, he made up for in determination and intellect. Despite the challenges, Leonard excelled academically, consistently ranking among the top 3 students in his classes, from junior school through to senior school. But Leonard wasn't just sharp in the classroom, he was also tough in the ring. At 13, he won his first boxing medal, a victory that led him to join the Grundy Boxing Club, where he earned the nickname Nipper. It was a name that would stick with him for the rest of his life, symbolising his tenacity and quick thinking. Nipper had dreams of attending Nottingham High School, a place where he believed he could further hone his intellect. He passed the entrance examinations with flying colours, but his father's financial struggles crushed that dream. The cost of school fees, books, and uniforms was simply too great, forcing Leonard to leave school at the age of 14, a decision he would later regret, wishing he could have pursued his academic ambitions further. In 1939, reality set in as he took up a job at Players Cigarette Warehouse, earning a modest 10 shillings a week, of which he dutifully handed over 8 shillings to his stepmother. It was a far cry from the life he had envisioned, but it was a start. By 1943, the world was at war, and Leonard answered the call. He joined the Royal Navy, where he served with distinction, rising to the rank of petty officer by the time he was demobilised in 1946. These experiences, early loss, hardship, and service, would shape the man who would one day take on London's most notorious criminals. Nipper Read was never one to settle. After returning from the war, he knew he couldn't go back to the monotonous grind of the tobacco industry or any factory job for that matter. His mind was set on something more challenging, something that would utilise his unique set of skills. So he applied to join the police force, but even that wasn't straightforward. The Nottingham police had a strict height requirement of 6 feet, which ruled out Read from joining their ranks. The Metropolitan Police was slightly more lenient, requiring a minimum height of 5 feet 8 inches. Even there, Read was just under the mark. His entry into the Met was secured only because he convinced the medical officer that he was still growing and would eventually reach the required height. This small deception turned out to be a blessing in disguise. His stature, which had been a disadvantage in the eyes of some, soon became one of his greatest assets. Because he was too short for regular uniform duties, Read was quickly moved to assist the Criminal Investigation Department, CID. His ability to blend in, his quick wit, and his theatrical background, honed from his school days as the lead in the school play, made him a natural for undercover work. Nobody would suspect the unassuming painter, decorator, GPO linesman, racing cyclist, chauffeur, road sweeper, milkman, or delivery boy of being a police officer. This anonymity allowed Read to gather critical intelligence, slipping into roles with ease, thanks to his early experience on stage. But Read wasn't just playing roles on the streets. He was also building his valuable experience within the force. He was gaining valuable experience across different districts, each assignment sharpening his skills further. In Harlesden, northwest London, he worked under the famous officer Bert Hannum, absorbing lessons from one of the best. His career took another significant turn when he was transferred to Paddington, where he worked under the supervision of Tommy Butler, a name that would later become synonymous with the Great Train Robbery investigation. Butler was a man of few words and kept his cards close to his chest. This forced Read to rely heavily on his colleague, Frank Gloyne, to learn the ropes. It was in Paddington that Read became tangentially involved in one of the high-profile cases of the time, the Jack Spot affair, where a notorious criminal sought police protection. This experience would be pivotal in shaping Read's understanding of the criminal mind and the politics within the force. By 1958, Leonard Read's growing reputation led to his promotion and transfer to Chelsea, where he was handed a case involving the murder of a detective, a case that would test his mettle. His success here eventually led to his involvement in the investigation of the Great Train Robbery, one of the most infamous crimes in British history. It was during this time that Read gained invaluable experience in handling major crimes, navigating the often treacherous waters of interdepartmental conflicts. This experience paved the way for his promotion to detective inspector in 1963. Years later, Read got his first real glimpse of the Kray Twins when he was posted as a police detective to Leman Street in the East End of London. It didn't take long for him to become frustrated with how Ronnie and Reggie Kray operated with apparent impunity. The twins had a grip on the East End, and Read could see the fear they instilled in the community. When he requested a team to investigate them, his superiors denied him, suspicious that he too might be on the twins' payroll, a testament to the deep corruption and fear the Krays had sown. Despite the setbacks, Read's first significant inquiry into the twins involved charging them with demanding money from a nightclub owner. The case quickly crumbled when witnesses were too terrified to testify, and a key witness changed their story, allowing the menacing pair to walk free. It was a bitter defeat, but Read wasn't one to be easily discouraged. In March 1966, Read was promoted to Detective Chief Inspector and transferred to West End Central. His initial task was to clean up the area ahead of the upcoming Football World Cup, targeting illegal clubs and beer joints. But it was his later assignment that would bring him head-to-head with the Krays again. Promoted to Detective Chief Superintendent, Read was attached to the murder squad with a specific brief: investigate the murders of George Cornell, who was shot in the Blind Beggar public house, and another Kray associate, Jack the Hat McVitie. Understanding the need for secrecy, Read set up his office away from Scotland Yard at Tintagel House in Vauxhall, a wise precaution given the Krays' extensive connections. His caution was justified when a hired gunman was caught at Shannon Airport en route to assassinate him. During this time, the twins were growing increasingly reckless, their violence spilling out into public view. Sensing the tide was turning against them, Read intensified his efforts. He methodically gathered evidence, focusing initially on their fraud activities. Once the twins were in custody in May 1968, he shifted his focus to building the murder cases against them. Read's meticulous approach paid off. With infinite patience, he persuaded key witnesses, including the barmaid who saw the Cornell shooting and the woman in whose flat McVitie was killed, to testify. In a particularly bold move, Read disguised himself as a vicar to visit the Krays' lieutenant, Albert Donahue, in Brixton. There, he convinced Donahue to provide evidence about a third murder, the killing of Frank Mitchell, the Mad Axeman, whom the twins had helped escape from Dartmoor prison before deciding he was too dangerous to keep alive. In 1969, the Krays received life sentences for the murders of Cornell and McVitie, though they were acquitted of Mitchell's murder. Read's meticulous planning, understanding of criminal psychology, and strategic use of undercover operations ensured the Krays' downfall. Over several years, he gathered and safeguarded the evidence that would stand up in court, ensuring that the twins, despite their reputation and connections, would finally face justice. Read's dedication didn't end with the arrests. He played a crucial role in the prosecution, making sure that evidence was presented effectively in court. His thoroughness and relentless pursuit of justice were instrumental in securing the convictions, bringing an end to the reign of two of Britain's most notorious criminals. In 1976, Nipper Read's illustrious career in law enforcement was recognised when he received the Queen's Police Medal, an honour that highlighted his contributions to the force. The following year, in 1977, Read retired from the police, closing a chapter on a career marked by his relentless pursuit of justice. But retirement didn't mean slowing down for Read. Immediately after his retirement, he transitioned into a role as the National Security Advisor to the National Museums and Galleries Commission, a position he held from 1978 to 1986. This role was established in response to the high-profile theft of Goya's Duke of Wellington, reflecting Read's expertise in security and his continued dedication to public service. Read's passion for boxing, a lifelong interest, also continued to shape his post-police career. In 1976, he joined the British Boxing Board of Control, initially serving on the Southern Area Council and as a steward. His influence within the organisation grew, and by 1996, he was appointed its chair, followed by his elevation to president in 1997. His leadership in the sport extended internationally as well. From 1989 to 2001, Read served as the vice president of the World Boxing Association, and from 1997 to 2001, he was a senior vice president of the World Boxing Council. Read retired from the British Boxing Board of Control in 2000, but even in retirement, he remained active, spending some of his leisure time lecturing on the Kray case aboard cruise ships, sharing his experiences and insights with captivated audiences. Read was known for his meticulous nature and a steadfastness that often bordered on obstinacy. He was a man who commanded respect and loyalty, yet his clean-cut, disciplined demeanour sometimes set him apart from the rough and tumble, hard-drinking image that was often associated with Scotland Yard during his era. One example of his tenacity was his unwavering belief that two young children had been murdered in Enfield, North London in 1970. Despite being told that they had died from exposure and ordered to close the case, Read never accepted this conclusion, holding firm to his convictions. Leonard Read passed away in 2020 after contracting the coronavirus while in hospital. His death marked the end of a life dedicated to the pursuit of justice, whether in the boxing ring, the corridors of Scotland Yard, or the broader world of security and law enforcement. Leonard Nipper. Read was more than just a detective. He was a relentless force of justice who stood tall against some of the most feared criminals in British history. From his humble beginnings to his pivotal role in bringing down the Kray Twins, Read's legacy is a testament to the power of determination, integrity, and meticulous strategy. If you found this deep dive into Nipper Read's life and his fight against the Kray Twins fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories from the dark underworld of true crime. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update, and let us know in the comments below which true crime figure you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.